William Robertson is a man who learned how to be an effective and successful employee and leader. He served in the Marine Corps, which is where he began to learn how to be a leader. He was chosen to advance early ahead of his peers at boot camp, and he was then given a leadership role. He progressed through his time in the military, finding himself in a different leadership roles with opportunities that helped him later on in his career. He learned attributes of leadership that benefited him not just with his career advancement, but also with those who he worked with. He worked other jobs here and there for a couple of years as a salesman and then as a self-employed truck driver, where his mom promptly convinced him to give that up and start working for the Los Angeles Bureau of Street Services as a heavy-duty truck driver. He was quickly promoted through the ranks until he eventually reached department head in just 18 years. As the head of the Los Angeles Bureau of Street Services, Robertson is in charge of thousands of miles of roadways, 7 divisions, over 1,000 employees, and a budget of $130 million each year. The ladder of participation, or the circle of participation, has 7 tiers, starting at manipulation and ending at citizen control. This system shows how citizens participate in the government. More participation meant more power at the expense of the administrative and political power of the organization. Putting the ladder into a circle allows for the administrator to work with the citizens, employees, elected officials, and other important people in a more flexible and useful way. Seeing the administrator as someone in the center with the ability to reach out and use each tool at their will greatly increases the productivity and usefulness of this theory. The flow up and down the ladder is very limited in comparison. So what is therapy? Therapy is the step that is meant to help cure, heal, or educate the participants or those it is being directed towards. In Arnstein's words, what makes this form of participation so invidious is that citizens, or employees, are engaged in extensive activity, but the focus of it is on curing them of their pathology, disease, or injury, rather than changing the racism or victimization that creates their pathologies, the causes and effects that create their problem. Looking at instances as the problem of the individual instead of as a collective issue, both from the organization and the individual, is dangerous because it is a simple patch that won't last long or impact future situations in a positive way. How did William Robertson demonstrate this concept? Robertson manages relationships in a difficult time where people are facing adversity and mourning, using therapy and providing information in times of need. We see a perfect example of this through Robert's ability to handle the time that a city maintenance worker fatally shot 2 employees at a city maintenance yard. First, Robertson took a self-evaluation of his feelings, who he can turn to for help, and his ability to help others before looking to help his employees. This tragic incident occurred just after a street worker fell into a sinkhole and died during a storm, to further add pressure and hardship to these employees and kind of the situation that they find themselves in. Robertson responded by giving all employees at all levels of his organization the freedom to seek counseling, take time off, or take any other action to heal from these tragedies. Robertson was able to empathize with his workers because of his background. He came up just the same as they did. Robertson discouraged field crews from refusing to go to counseling because of negative connotations tied to it. Robertson stressed to Bureau employees that the most important assets of the Bureau are the people who work for us. He believed the Bureau is a family. Robertson experienced a sense of guilt, asking himself, what could I have done differently to save these lives? This thinking is the type of thinking that creates change rather than just patching singular instances of issues. In conclusion, Robertson used the supportive relationships across all levels of the organization that he built, modeling his time in the Marine Corps. He also used his ability to lead those on the front line while he was out there with them facing these issues rather than just from a corporate office over the phone or through other employees. These relationships are defined by partnerships in which Robertson actively consults with those under him, empathizes with them, and helps them reflect and heal.